In today's video, we paint a swamp horror. In a previous video, I showed you how I use epoxy sculpt to gap fill using a swamp horror from Privateer Press. Link here if you'd like to check that video out. In this video, we're going to paint that swamp horror. With this model, I figured I would approach it the same way I approached the Hellmouths for the Legion army, being all tentacly and everything. I'm really excited to paint this model for two reasons. The first reason is to see how my gap filling held up with the epoxy sculpt. See if it's smooth or rough, see how it takes paint. The second is for the circular portions on each side of the swamp horror's head. From other paint jobs that I've seen of this model, that particular portion can make it or break it when it comes to the paint job. So what I've decided to try to attempt with this is to paint it like a giant gemstone. Use that gemstone effect to give it some depth, maybe add a little character to Mr. Swamp Horror here. What I'm not looking forward to painting on this model is that mouth. All those teeth. It's going to take forever. Well, that's enough of me telling you what I plan on doing. Let's get into the project. Off screen, we primed this black and gave it a zenith highlight through the airbrush. Here you can see me laying down the base coat of black forest green from scale 75 through the airbrush. Took about 2 coats to get this completely covered. Then we take some dark tone from Army Painter and we take that over all of the flesh of this model. I thinned this down with water and applied it liberally to try and avoid tide marks. Once the wash has dried, we take a dry brush with that black forest screen back over the whole model. You can be fairly liberal with this because the next highlight is where we're going to get more selective. I chose this screen for the mid-tone primarily because it is dark, but it's also very saturated, and I'm hoping that this will help give me that vibrant octopus look that I'm going for. Up next, we take some iRatty green from scale 75. Not exactly sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but we take that and we dry brush this on as our final highlight for the flesh. Then we take some Sherwood green from scale 75 and we start cutting in all of the webbed areas in between the tentacles. And then we highlight the centermost area of that webbing with some fall green from scale 75. From there we base coat all of the carapace areas with black. Here I am using Army Painter Matte Black. Once the carapace was completed, I took that same Army Painter Matte Black and I cut in all of the claws and spikes. Then I took some cold gray from Vallejo and used that to highlight all of those claws and spikes. Next I take some dark red from Vallejo Model Color and I start to base coat all the suction cup areas. This took forever, primarily to trying to be meticulous with not painting over any of the green with this red. Then we get some Ardennes green, again pronunciation from scale 75, onto our dry brush here and we dry brush that over all of the carapace. This is going to be the brightest highlight on the carapace so that it still reads as black to the eye. Then we take some dark tone wash from Army Painter and we apply that to the carapace. This will help knock out that dusty look that the dry brushing gave it. From there, we begin the head bubble. The first thing we do is we give it a base coat of Sherwood green. Then I take that Sherwood green and I mix it up with a little bit of that Ardennes green from scale 75 to make a mid-tone between the two. I apply this to the upper portion of the head bubble to start the transition from light to dark for that gem effect we're going for. After many rounds of back and forth here, you see me applying a bit of a glaze of that Ardennes green to help smooth this transition out. After that, to darken this up even further, I start using some Army Painter Dark Tone as a filter and a glaze to achieve a slightly darker tone than the color that is underneath of it. Here you see me blending out that hard edge from the application of the dark tone. Here you see me mixing some of that fall green into the Sherwood green to give me a mid-tone between the two. And I use that to bring up the brightest highlight on the lower end of this gem effect. As you can see here, that really dark upper portion of this circular area took me a few hours of back and forth in order to achieve this gem effect that I was going for. Here I'm cutting in that brightest yellow highlight on the other side of this model. The reason we are putting the highlights to the bottom of these circular areas is due to the way that gems refract light. And here you see me using some pure white to paint in the light's entry point to this gemstone. And then we begin the arduous task of applying the squid pink highlight to all of the suction cups. From there, we take some red tone wash from Army Painter and we apply that to all the suction cup areas. This is going to really help those individual suction cups pop out. Here it is, the teeth. It's time to paint the teeth. And I am doing this with some off-white from Vallejo. With a little bit of movie magic, we jump ahead of time and I am finishing up the teeth. And then we take some strong tone wash from Army Painter and we apply that to the entirety of the mouth, including the teeth and the little mandibles up there. Then we begin painting in the eyes with some alien purple from Army Painter. This is going to act as the darkest shadow in the eye. Then we come in with some ooze purple from Army Painter and apply that to about 75% of the eye, leaving the far right area as that alien purple still. And then we come in with some pure white and we cover in about 50% of the eye, following the same procedure as before. And then we cover all of that with a thin glaze of magenta fluorescent paint from Vallejo Model Color. After completing the eyes, I went ahead and applied a quick base and then varnished the entire model with some AK Interactive Ultra Matte varnish. "18 hours in the Swamp Horror" is finally completed. Although a lot of that time can really be chalked up to me experimenting and trying new things. And trying new things is always a good use of time. I had to go back and forth for what seems like a million times to get it to look the way that it does. But in the end, I'm fantastically happy with how that turned out. For my first time attempting that kind of an effect, I'm surprised it turned out like that. But enough of what I think about the Swamp Horror. What do you think about the Swamp Horror? Let me know in the comments section down below. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that other social media stuff. It really does help out the channel a lot. For now, I've got to fly. Keep on painting, peeps.